Time to talk about how to record better audio for your YouTube videos using the Zoom H1 external audio recording device. Before we get started, one thing to know is that I use the Zoom H1 recording device for my YouTube videos. Since this video is about the Zoom H1 and I only have one of them, and it's right here, and as you can tell it's not on, that means I'm not using it for this video. That means that I'm using the camera's internal microphone to record this audio. I suspect that the audio won't be as good as my other videos, but we'll see how it does. So I just want you to understand that as we go forward. So with that in mind, what I'm going to talk about will be the features of the Zoom H1, and then we're going to go over some demos or samples of what the audio recording sounds like using the built-in microphones and a basic lavalier mic, and we're going to compare this to the internal mic of the camera. And then I'm going to show you exactly how to record sound using the Zoom H1 along with your camera, and we're going to get into a little post edit, and I'm going to use Adobe Premiere or Power Director. You can use whatever you have, but I'm going to show you how to sync up the audio with the video. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump right into the basic features of this Zoom H1. Starting with the features, this is the front of the Zoom H1. You can see it's relatively basic in design. The only button to really concern yourself with on the front is the center one right here, which is the record button. And this is really there so that it's simple to start and stop your recordings. As you can see, I'm not recording now with it, but you can see the meters over here to the left. Now I have lights to the left and to the right. I'm going to do the best I can to show you some of these features, and we'll see how well this works out. So at the top, you have the XY microphones up here, and this gives you full stereo, which is nice. And the plastic that's wrapped around the mics, it's nothing special, but it does the trick to help protect them. And there's not a whole lot of, you can see there's not a whole lot of extrusion on the microphones, so that it's really kind of difficult for those mics to get beat around anyway. So that's the front of this unit. And what we're going to do is if I flip it to the left side, the only thing that really sits over here is your line out, which is right here. And then you have your volume up down for your output sitting over here. And then you have your micro SD slot right here. And this right here, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can just open this real quick. And you'll see right there. The only thing that's really holding this cap in is just a little piece of plastic, and I can see that that might come breaking off at some point, but I'm not hugely concerned about that. I've had this for a while, and I haven't really had any issues with it, so it just kind of snaps back on, and off you go. On the back side of the unit right here, you have your battery compartment, and this just takes one AA battery. In my opinion, and I don't know, I get quite a bit of use out of the batteries, but it does seem to go through them relatively quick. But it's nothing too bad. Right here, you have your adapter if you want to hook this onto a tripod. One notable is that the threads in here are plastic, so do not try to torque that down, because if you do, there's a good chance you'll strip those threads. But it does the trick, and I have hooked this up to an adapter and put it on a tripod. I don't do it often. Just remember that if you do that, just don't torque it down. And then on the back side here, you have a few switches which are notable. We have the low cut filter right here, which is on off. I typically leave that off. Our auto leveling, it's an on off rocker again. I usually leave that off, but I have flipped that on before, and I think it does a decent job at maintaining the auto levels, depending on what you're doing with this. But again, I typically leave my auto level off, and then your recording format, you can go with WAV or you can go with MP3, and I typically go WAV over here, but either one's fine. It just depends on what you're wanting to do with it. So when we flip this back over to the other side, this is where you find a lot of your controls. Right here you have your USB, and what's nice about this is you can hook this up to your computer, and this will simply work as a storage device, and this unit will also act as a PC or laptop microphone as an extension, so that's nice to use as well. Right here is your on-off switch, and you can also lock it. So if you have it on, you want to lock your controls, you can do that just by pushing that up, and then all of your controls are locked. And if you inadvertently push a button, for example, it just says hold, so it's not going to actually start or stop anything. You can see up here my battery. I don't know how well we can see it, my battery's flashing, so it's low. So back to our controls. I'm going to go ahead and flip that down. Right here you have your trash, and then you have your playback controls right here, your rewind, play, pause, forward. And then over here you have your line in. Now this is where you will hook a lavalier or lapel mic. And then right here is, this is the rocker control for your input levels. So if you want to manually control your input levels, you can go up, down on that. And that's where you can do an audio test. So everything's pretty much here, and there is one thing I do want to call out, and that is right here. This, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but that says 48/16. Now, what that's telling me is that I am at 48 kilohertz. And so what's notable about this number is that if you're recording at 44, for example, and your video device is recording at 48, you can experience what is called audio drift. And what will happen, because I've had this happen, is that you may notice that your voice will not match up with the mouth, even though you sync it up at the start. So that's called audio drift, and that's typically caused because your audio recording device is not at the same setting kilohertz wise as your video recording device. So there's a lot more technical reasoning and logic to that, but I'm going to not get into that right now. So with all that said, let's go ahead and let's put this thing to use, and we'll take a look at some sample audio. Time to conduct a couple of sample audio tests, and that way you can hear the difference. One quick thing to note is that the camera that's recording me right now is about 2.5, maybe 3 feet away from my face. I say this because the built-in microphone for the camera is what you're hearing right now. I've got the Zoom H1 here, and I'm going to go ahead and record into the built-in microphones, and then I'm going to hook a lapel mic to it. And this lapel or lavalier mic is very, very cheap. Now these come in all different types of qualities, but if you want to know just how cheap, I got 5 of these for about $8. Now if you're wondering where I got them from, I'm going to post a link in the description, and I'll also post a link in the description regarding the Zoom H1. The Zoom H1 runs about $100 or so. So with all that said, let's go ahead and conduct some tests. Right now, again, I'm speaking into the built-in microphone that's on the Sony a5100. And now I'm talking into the microphone that is built into the Zoom H1. One thing to note about the Zoom H1 is that it is very, very sensitive to noises that are right around the device. For example, if I just tap on it, chances are you're going to hear that, and that will be picked up. That'll be picked up very well by these built-in microphones. So, back to the Sony a5100. Back to the built-in microphone with the Zoom H1. Now, I'm going to go ahead and hook the lavalier mic to the Zoom H1. And with this right here, I am now speaking into the lavalier mic. Now, what's nice about the lavalier is that it doesn't matter if I'm facing the camera or not, and it really doesn't matter with this particular setup, regardless of whether I'm using the lavalier or just the built-in microphones on the Zoom H1, how close I am to the camera. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to move the camera back, say about 5, 6, 7 feet, and we'll see just how well the built-in microphone picks up, and that'll really give you another good sample of what this can do for you. Not only did I push the camera back 6 or 7 feet, but I decided to go outside where I feel that the ambient noise is a little more realistic of what we're going going to run into in everyday recording. So right now, you're listening to me on the Sony a5100 built-in microphone. Now I'm switching over to the lavalier mic that is attached to the Zoom H1. As you can tell, this audio quality should be a lot better. And one big notable is when you're using a lavalier mic, I can turn in any direction and the audio will sound the same, even if I turn my back to the camera. The same cannot be said for the internal microphone on any given camera. Right now I'm facing it, but if I turn to the side, you'll notice that the audio drops off when using the internal microphone. And if I turn to the back, it definitely drops off and it's even more difficult to hear me. I'm back on the lavalier mic now, and it's time to take a look at some real-life examples of how we use this microphone when we go to record vlogs. A typical scenario for me starts off just like this. I just started the recording on the camera, and I have my lavalier mic attached, and I have my Zoom H1 right here in my hand. And what I do after recording the video is I start my Zoom H1, and now that that's recording, I can put this in my pocket, and I will clap 2 or 3 times just like this. Now, that clapping will allow us to sync up the audio and the video in post-production. So right now I would go ahead and conduct my typical vlog however I want, and when I'm done, then I go to the machine, I'll open up something like Adobe Premiere, and then I will sync up the audio and video, which we're going to do right now. I'm in Adobe Premiere, and I'm going to use this program to edit our video. One quick note is the technique I'm going to show you will apply to most other video editing software packages. If you have any questions specific to Premiere, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to help you out. And if need be, I can fire up another video and really get into the nuts and bolts of this program. It's a very powerful program that offers a lot of very cool and efficient features. So with that said, let's go ahead and move forward. I know that my video file is called 33.mts, and I'm going to take this and drop it on my timeline. And as you can see, these 2 rows right here, this is a depiction of the left and right channel as recorded by the onboard microphone in the camera. So I'm going to go ahead and grab our dedicated audio file recorded by the Zoom H1, which I know is this file right here. It is the 10.wav file. I'm going to take this over and drop it on our timeline as well. And what I'm going to do is zoom in just a little bit so we can get a better look at the graphical representation of these 2 files. What we're looking for is the clap. Now I can tell by looking at this, the clap is indicated by these 2 peaks right here. And in order to confirm that, I'm going to go ahead and move this out, and I'm going to mute the audio that came with the video, and we're going to play back just the dedicated audio right here, and we're going to confirm that that is where the 2 claps are. Here we go. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is that this is a tutorial, a demo, and I was talking before the clap, and that's the reason why we see all this other chatter right here. So without this in place, it makes the 2 claps much easier to see. So now we need to find the 2 claps that are attached to the video file. And I can tell by looking at this, it looks like right here is where the 2 claps are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over and I'm going to get close to these 2 peaks, and I'm just going to unmute that track and we're going to play it and confirm that that is where the 2 claps are. Here we go. Like this. Okay. So now we know that this is where the clap is. We're going to sync these 2 files up. So I'm going to take the marker, which is indicated by the blue line. I'm going to place it right over the second clap. It doesn't matter which clap you place it over. You're just looking for that point that you can match up these 2 files. I know down here in the dedicated audio file, again, this is the location of the 2 claps. I'm going to take the audio file and I'm going to pull this over. And we're going to try to line this second clap up with that marker. About like that. Now, what you can do is you can zoom in a little closer and get a little more precise with that lineup. You can see it's just a little off. So I'm just going to pull it a little to the right, now back to the left and right, and there we go. So now it looks like we're lined up, and in order to confirm this, I'm going to go ahead and just play the audio, and I am going to unmute both lines. And with the audio, with the dedicated audio file laying over the audio that's attached to the video, we should hear what sounds like just one voice. So let's go ahead and play this. 2 or 3 times just like this. Okay, so that's pretty close. It sounds like a little bit of an echo in there, but I'm good with that for now. So I'm going to go ahead and mute the audio that is associated with the video. And what we're going to do is we're going to move down the timeline to where I'm sitting down and talking. And let's take a look and a listen and see if the audio matches up with my mouth. Now I would go ahead and conduct my typical vlog however I want. That looks and sounds great in my opinion. So at this point, we're ready to move on with our editing. I would take this clip and slice it and dice it. And this is how you sync up a dedicated audio file with the video. One quick note for Premiere users. Premiere offers a very quick way to match up these two files. What I had just shown you is the manual way of doing it, and it works fine. It's what I've done for many years. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and remove both of these files, and if you are a Premiere user, I'm going to go ahead and show you a very quick way to match up these files. So what you want to do is select the video file. In this case, again, it is the 33.mts, and I'm going to select the associated dedicated audio file, which is the 10.wave. And then I'm going to right click, and keep in mind I'm on a Windows machine. I'm going to come up and left click on the merge clips. Now I'm not going to get into the details of the properties that are being shown here. Just know that Premiere has this ability to merge a video and a dedicated audio clip, and it results in this file right here, the 33.mts-merged. I'm going to take this, pull it over to the timeline, and drop it down. And what we're going to do is I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I'm going to go over here to where I'm sitting down, and we're going to see just how well it matched up. Let's go ahead and take a listen and a watch. And when I'm done, then I go to that looks and sounds great. So it's just another way, very quick way of having Premiere do the work for you. Keep in mind that if you decide to vlog with your camera, which means that if you have your camera and you're going to run around with that on maybe a mini tripod, or you're going to hold it in your hand out in front of you, and you got to think about the sound with that. So more often than not, you may just use the built-in microphone that's on that camera, and there may not be anything wrong with that. Another option, depending on the camera that you have, is if you have a mic input, you might be able to leverage a Rode mic, or it's like a mini boom mic if you're not familiar with the Rode mics. But they actually mount on the camera, and it might extend out, I'm just guessing, 3-4 inches in that range. And so I'm not certain you want to run around with the camera with that mini boom mic at the top of it, but it does produce some really good sound. But again, it may not be the picture of efficiency when you're trying to vlog. Nonetheless, the camera that I have right here, the Sony a5100, I believe the a6000 as well, and there are many other cameras out there that do not have a mic in. And if you don't have a mic in and you're looking for better audio quality, especially if you have your camera on a tripod and you're going to be out running around somewhere that's quite a distance from the camera itself, consider something like this Zoom H1 and grab yourself a relatively cheap lavalier mic like this right here. Again, I'll post a link to both of these in the description below. So I hope this video helped you out, and if you liked it, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. It's called The Real World. You never know what you might get. More often than not, I post videos about photography and technology, but I also post videos about homeownership, automobile maintenance. You just never know. It's the real world. So until the next video, take care of yourself and be safe.